Wholeness and balanced vibration to everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in again. This is another amazing time of fire and light. This is episode 2, and we're going even deeper. Today we're going to talk about balance. We're going to talk about focus. We're going to answer some questions as we always do. But more importantly, what we're going to do is we're going to show some techniques, and we're going to get into some things that's going to give you some immediate applications to what you're experiencing in reality. So for those of you that are just tuning into the show, I ask that you definitely hit the subscribe button right away so you don't forget when you leave, but know that you can ask questions to anything really that's related to intelligence, knowledge, spiritual prosperity, consciousness, fulfillment, etc. And how to accomplish that. You can go to the Secret Energy website, you can hit the ask section, and you can go ahead and leave your question there and we'll answer it for you if we feel like it's pertinent. So no trolling. So the first thing, I'm going to jump right into this. I've been asked a lot of questions about this whole blood over intent thing going on the internet. And of course, many people respect my opinion about things because after all, we spent 6 years digging deep into the depth of occult knowledge, spiritual knowledge, esoteric knowledge, any kind of knowledge around the planet that we can find to be useful. So I will say first and foremost that this is a part of the degradation that I feel like is constantly taking place with not just the reality, but also the conscious community, meaning that we can get taught things over and over and over and over again. But if we don't put those things into application, then we can sometimes not see the results and still keep looking for a result. So I feel like the blood over intention thing is more like that same problem with what I call the genie in the bottle effect. This is when a person's literally looking for one thing to change everything in their lives. So when it really is about what diet are you on and how much toxins do you have in your blood and what do you spend your time thinking about, what you'll find is for many people, they're still looking for an easier, quicker way to actually accomplish the great things that are often spoke about with the achievements in spirituality. And you can see the obvious pitfalls in a concept like that because personally, I would say there is no substitute for hard work. If you're looking to get to the expanse and to really progress, then you need to start focusing on things that bring that about and be truthful with yourself. Don't look for something imaginary. So I will say for the record that you can do more with your blood by clearing it up with something like mega hydrate, which is hydrogen, getting the toxin out of your blood, getting more oxygen in your blood. That's, of course, working out, exercising. And what that brings about is it brings about the manifestation. Because what is intentions? Intentions are manifestations. You want to see something get accomplished. But we've talked about how the current, any kind of current, whether that's the circulation and current running through our body, which the blood does, that somehow translates to even money in the reality, that translates into creativity. So any kind of current has to be addressed from its energetic perspective and its energetic potential. So what you find with blood is that when blood gets older, it actually turns more of a brown color. And then there's a lot of oxidation within the blood. This means that basically this is the process of the body going through the death experience. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can keep your blood strong, rich, red, and most importantly, inside of your body. And it can allow your current and your creativity to build in your body. And that's what's actually going to give you the manifestations of your intentions. So not blood on a piece of paper. It's not even holy papyrus. You know, some people were even saying that you had to be younger blood. And so what that really does is, last but not least, it gets us to start thinking about if we start gauging what we're going to do based on negative individuals. The argument was brought up, well, the elite use blood in their rituals, so they also use nuclear bombs, so should we? So think about it that way more than anything, and also just use your common sense. I have a feeling that a lot of people looked at that right away and was like, nah, that's not it. So that's my response to that. The next question here is balance in a submatrix. This question is by Denise. And Denise says, wholeness before an adequate level of sovereignty is achieved and the majority of daily waking hours still need to be spent in the submatrix. How does one maintain a semblance of balance in what amounts to an environment of cold, predatory soup? And great question, Denise. What I really say is you got to really discover for yourself. We can only give you pointers about what neutrality is anyway. And this is a deep, deep dissertation, so I'll try to collapse it into some parable or some applicable way of you understanding it. See, for us, neutral is often good. meaning that when someone asks you to define neutral, then a lot of times a person would say, well, neutral is balance, so imbalance is harmony, so harmony is good. But in itself, good is on one end of the spectrum, and then of course we have bad on the end of the spectrum, and neither one of these can exist without each other. You won't know good until you experience bad, just like you won't know blue until you see red. This is how we process things in a dualistic reality. But the truth is that when you start getting a little bit deeper and you say, well, what is neutral then? It means that neutral is actually outside of the reality. Neutral actually doesn't have anything to do with how you're even reacting to certain things. Because let's say a good parable here was brought up about, you see two people fighting, and what happens if you just, or maybe a bigger guy picking on a little guy, man picking on a woman or whatever, and you just walk away. Is that being neutral? The truth is that actually, no, you've made a decision. Even walking away is a decision. So where true neutrality is, which is a cognitive balance, a cognitive harmony, is actually outside of this realm and has to do with mechanics that don't even have anything to do with this realm. So when you start trying to find this neutral zone in the matrix, you won't find it. The neutral zone is outside of the matrix. And this is why it's so important for you to get in touch with that part of not only yourself, but everything that you're seeing around you, to get in touch with that universal out of time aspect of it, so you could come into more realization of what you're doing. And this kind of brings you more into focus. So this then brings us to the next part of the answer to this question, Denise, and it's success versus fulfillment. And to realize, what is the difference between those two? And if you look at success for many people could be the achievement of a specific goal. Fulfillment is more like in the long run, how you processed everything. So success could be momentary then, and fulfillment is much more broad and expansive. So armed with that kind of definition, you can see that maybe some of the things that you participate in this mundane submatrix reality is to actually get you on the progress of total fulfillment. So it's just a piece in the puzzle then, not the whole thing. And you have to also focus in life to make sure that's what's going on. If you're in a situation that you feel like, I cannot endure this situation forever or infinitely, this is not going to give me fulfillment. But if it is going to bring you to that realization, well, that's how everything works. That's how inventions work. You first start off with simple prototypes, something that doesn't even look good, something that doesn't even really work, but you start somewhere. So some of the jobs that we're working right now in the mundane matrix, some of the people that we're having to deal with, et cetera, that don't even really want to focus on consciousness, they're that exact same way. They're that part of our process that is the rough sketch or rough model that we're enhancing. So we're reaching a fulfillment. So keeping that in focus as the means, so you don't get bogged down and start having that affect you on a moralistic level. So going on from that, again, we're going to have some techniques in this conversation today, physical techniques about how to actually achieve focus and how to feel that within your body. Because if people don't really know where neutrality is most of the time, then we need to identify it some way. And you can't identify it through thinking, because it's in the land of harmony, the land of all knowing. So this means that you can utilize other techniques that allow you to feel that you've actually achieved balance. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So just remember, though, the back and forth that goes on in the matrix, the yin and the yang, the you breathing out the oxygen and then the trees breathing in the carbon and pushing out, of you breathing out, the carbon dioxide, and the trees bringing in that carbon dioxide and then making oxygen. That whole process that you're looking at is actually that major part of what agitates people so much. Meaning that instability, that good, that bad, that yes, that no, that positive, that negative, is actually the way that the reality functions. So if you don't learn how to deal with that, then you actually never learn how to truly deal with and master the reality. And of course, the key is to find that neutral zone, but that neutral zone is not in the reality, has nothing to do with the reality. And this is how, when you realize that, you actually find it, because you remove yourself from that equation entirely into a space that allows you to begin to calculate higher things. And this is starting to push you more towards the fulfillment. So the next thing is that the question here is about money. One of the most controversial topics for many people. for whatever reason. This question is by Absolute Wit, and he asked the question, how do I break through my hatred for money? And the interesting thing is actually how the question is phrased, because when you use the word hatred or hate, it's actually more of that you need to address, because it gets you very close to the answer to your own question. So then I will have to represent the question and ask the person, what do they hate so much about money? And then wait for a response. And since this is a monologue, I will have to respond. The person would probably say, it's because money makes people corrupt. And that's very interesting as a response, because that's how many of us think until we realize, well, first of all, what is money? What is it trying to emulate? What is it trying to do in the reality? It's currency. It's trying to emulate some kind of energy. So let's take for one moment to put money then actually in a head-to-head place with energy, so that way we can understand it better. So if money is energy, air is also energy, oxygen is also energy, and you need that. So to insist that oxygen is evil because corrupt people breathe it is the same reason, the same theology of why one would come up to the conclusion that money is actually evil. Listen to what I'm saying. But the interesting thing is, then we go a little bit deeper and ask ourselves, well, so where do all those concepts come from that money is actually evil? And we find that actually comes from media and propaganda. How media and propaganda generally portrays money is girls and cars and stock market, Wolf on Wall Street, Lamborghinis, Monaco, boats, and of course, that kind of excessiveness to a reality that's suffering, starving, has countries that are poor, etc., creates a polarity. But remember, the entire reality fuels itself on these polarities. We wouldn't know poor if there wasn't rich. So this kind of thing, it starts to get us into, okay, well, maybe it's that they're not highlighting enough of how people are utilizing currency, power, energy to create great things in this world. How it is an intermediary for a person that may be creating an invention, maybe creating something that saves someone's life. And that's equally going on too. So then we find that the programming around money is actually saying, hey, instead of going to do something great with your currency, go and waste it. Go and do all these corrupted things with it. That still will be your choice of what you choose to do with it. But that seems like it's the popular choice. Then last but not least, there is a part of the reality, especially in many of the in the Western culture, that works on a slave-based mentality. And what this literally means is that there is a large group of people that they would rather keep with this idea that wealth for them is evil and should not be thought about. And that's to surely keep the person from achieving any of their inventions and things that they're going to need to have and adapt along the way that actually take money, because it takes a transfer between another person and the energy that they've invested into it. So this gives us a deeper aspect of looking at money like energy, just as it is. That's the world that we're living in right now. That's how it presents itself. And then going a step deeper and saying, okay, if it's energy, is it the energy that I really hate? Or is it how the energy is being framed and presented to me? So think about that. Next question here is, how does water, and this is by Peter Crum, the question is, how does the type of water we drink impact our intelligence level? And I love the question because obviously we're working deep with water. We're working on the FiAqua device right now, which allows you to structure, program, and energize water. Brand new way of actually getting your manifestations into your body, how to get your body online so that it can start to really work on these more subtle energetic levels and allowing you to perceive how many other levels that you're operating on like that. How much does thought really, can it really do for you? How much does frequencies really do? So water brings us more in touch with ourselves because we're 70% water. So to answer the question directly, what does water really do? It causes things to grow. And all of this conversation right now has really been about growth, but not just any kind of growth, focus or symmetric, balanced, harmonic growth. So if the structure of the water is offline, bent at an angle, corrupted, let's say the structure, the molecular structure broken down, then also all of the things about your body, your thoughts, your physicality, your energy are going to be a reflection of that because you're 70% water. So I won't dig into this any more than that. That's exactly why drinking the best water that you can, setting intentions into water, which is very sentient, is the key and the major key to getting yourself online. Probably better off than blood over intent by just dealing with your water and having that conversation. The last thing is that I wanted to introduce a technique before we close down here about balance and focus. And I found that these techniques are very instrumental because they take you out of the brain gym of trying to figure that out. And they put you more into something physical to do so that you can feel what that is. So the first chart that we're actually showing here is a chart of a blue dot with a white line down the center and a red dot or circle with a white line down the center. And then of course in the center of this you see a black dot. And the exercise here is to take the dot, to center yourself with the screen, and to merge, look at the dot, and to then merge the red and then the blue circle in with each other, to begin to learn how to control your eyes to pull those together. And what you'll experience is, as the red dot is on each side of this, you'll experience that the images will merge. You'll get more or less a fusion of red and blue, and you'll also see how mentally that feels when you start to center your vision, and you can get more familiar with that feeling. And the second image here is actually a little bit more acute at getting you to feel the feeling. So the first one is really to let you learn the technique. The second one is to let you feel what the technique's actually doing with your mind and how it gets you into three-dimensional space. So this diagram is actually two hypercubes. And then what you do is you use the same technique from the first design and you merge those two hypercubes together. And then what you experience, if you get it right, once you merge them together perfectly, is they pop out from the screen. So they literally create a three-dimensional thing, and that also feels a certain way. So this is how you get yourself more in touch with how does it feel to be balanced, more so than trying to think about what it's like to be balanced. So, and then in that note, Wholeness and Balance Vibrations will check you out soon. Tell all your friends that we got it going on over here. Fire and Light, we're answering all the major questions. Get on the Secret Energy, get your questions out there. You know, start throwing some real stuff out there. You know, address the real things happening in the reality and the stuff that you want to know. Keep it concise and as clear as possible so that way we can get you the answer as soon as possible. And then also you have other people that are on the site that can help you too. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll see you soon.